Welcome back to this primitive playthrough of Ark Survival Evolved, the Appalachian modded map. So, we are going to be taking on at least 3 bosses this episode. But first, before I can take on any bosses, I need to tame a little doggo. So this is a Shiba Inu from the Shiba Inu mod. It's very cute. He supposedly does something while he's on your shoulder, but I don't really take him out much because I'm afraid for his life and he's pretty weak. So I go to tame more creatures because fighting these bosses is no joke. Now, I fought all of these bosses and this video itself was recorded about 3 months ago from when you're watching this, and at that point in time the bosses were not really that hard, but if you're watching it today, yeah, these bosses are no joke. But for now, because this is before they got buffed, I go out and I tame a bunch of creatures. I tried to tame them with the horse, but kicking nonstop at a bunch of wolves knocked out my horse, as you saw there. Horse got back up, and I tamed a baby sabertooth as well as a couple of wolves. But I also went out and collected tons of awesome epic gear from the loot crates. Going out at nighttime is beneficial because you can see the bright lights much easier in the dark. I made mention of this in an episode or 2 ago, but I find tons of tools, equipment, a mastercraft pike, I found a purple bow, I find all this really good gear, and that's gonna help a lot when it comes to fighting these bosses. Though with so much acquired loot, I determined I needed a larger storage space. So I made an add-on to my house where I will be making it into a small storage room, and I will be making the larger storage boxes and fitting them in sideways so I can fit multiple of them rather than just one. It will be definitely an upgrade from the little ones that I had been using up until now. But now that the chores are out of the way, it is time to gather the troops and head toward the swamp, where we're going to be fighting our first boss battle, the one that you saw on the thumbnail, Gormand, the large albino gator with tons of scarring on it from past battles. On the way to the swamp though, I did see a Gigantopithecus, one with a child, so as tradition dictates, I kill the adult and tame the baby. The baby I then name Little John. I thought it fit perfectly. I did wait around a little bit for him to grow up. I went AFK, did some chores around the house. Once he was grown up and was able to at least keep up with me, because when they're babies they can't really, walk that fast, but once they're about adolescent, juvenile-ish, then they can run, at least keep up with you. So once that happened, we continued on to the swamp. It took quite a while because I did have to wait up for a couple of them, but going through all the trees and foliage, we eventually make it to the swamp. We search around a little bit until we eventually hear the boss music. Now, I left Little John behind. He was way too weak to take on the boss battle, but we scoured the cliffside until eventually we saw movement. I made myself a spyglass, which definitely comes in handy for these kind of moments, and there it is. Now, it does say Dinosuchus because, well, it uses a Dinosuchus model, but it is Gormand the boss battle. Eventually, it will be renamed. I think it is renamed as of you watching it right now, but also this is now pretty much one of, if not the strongest boss battle on this map. But when I fought it, I didn't know it at the time, so I stood up on the cliff wondering what I should do to fight this mighty beast. Eventually, I just took the plunge. Well, not quite yet, actually. I tried to hit it with my crossbow first, seeing what that would do. I definitely got its attention, but then I decided, alright, this is not gonna go anywhere, so I then made the plunge and launched all of my dinos off of the cliff to fight it. Now, my strategy at the time for fighting it with its current state was using the bear as a tank because he had so much health on him. Now, Gormand is a Dinosuchus, which means that they are inclined to use their Mega Bite ability, so it is a little bit easy to avoid it if you are solo, but if they're using their normal bite, they do have a very quick turn radius, so doing the circling method isn't really that good. You can, of course, kite it if you are solo, and have, stronger weapons than I do now, like rocket launchers and machine guns, but I am doing a primitive playthrough, so I only have bows and arrows. Now, eventually, I did defeat Gormand. It took quite a while of me basically circling them around, keeping the attention on my bear to take most of the damage and tanking it, while the rest of my creatures DPS'd him down from behind. Luckily, it didn't do a tail swipe ability, it just mainly bit and chomped. Now, the normal bites I just took head on, but when he did the mega bite, I would run away to avoid that much damage, because it does hurt quite a while. And then, eventually, it went down, and I reaped all of the rewards, which was a ton of material. Now, this was fixed as of, you playing it right now, but when I fought him at this point in time, they would give you tons of organic polymer and tons of element and a bunch of stuff that was basically encumbering for any creature that got the kill. But all of the trophies go straight to your bag. So as you see there, tons of element, organic polymer, cementing paste. That of course was reduced way down as of right now, but all of the trophies still are there. Only now you get the actual artifact rather than a blueprint to make it, which is kind of odd. But now it was time to head home, so I bring home Little John and everyone else. And I tried placing the trophy on the wall after, depositing all of that excess stuff. Now, I did throw out the element because I am not going to be using it on this playthrough, but I did keep the cementing paste because it's very useful, and that means I wouldn't have to farm around for it. Plus, there are no beaver dams, unfortunately, they just don't want to spawn. But anyway, I tried placing the trophy on the wall. I tried the head trophy because I figured, the full body would be too big. Let's try the head. Oh, yeah, so it pretty much is the size of my entire house, because the trophies themselves will be to scale the size of the boss that you kill. So it wasn't going to work out that well, because it pretty much blocks my entire entrance. And then for shits and giggles, I decided to put the whole body mount to see what would happen. Yeah, so it pretty much goes outside of my house. I couldn't even see where I was going because it was so large. So I didn't really want to get rid of it because it is cool, but I had to figure out some other way of displaying the mighty trophy that I had acquired from Gormand. Eventually, I made myself a little post outside near the water by the glacier. And when I set it out, it was perfect. It took up all that empty space, but it also kind of encircled where I put the drum, so it looked great. So yeah, that's pretty much Gormand, but we have 2 more boss battles for the rest of this video. So in order to get to them, I decided to build a dock. The dock will lead just outside of my base towards the river instead of the pond, and I made myself a raft. Now the reason why I'm doing this is because, traveling with a ton of creatures from here to the swamp was very annoying. If I put them all on a boat, then I could just sail. Now yeah, the boat is pretty slow, but at that point in time, I won't have to stop constantly for creatures to catch up. They're getting caught on rocks, caught on trees, so this would be pretty much the easier way, even though it is the slowest way. But yeah, I made the dock to reach out into the river a little bit. I build up a raft to be kind of like a boat. Now, the boat itself looks a little bit more, I would say, modern, at least colonial-ish, kind of like a pirate ship, when I'm really kind of going for a primitive, more, tribal vibe, but it's gonna have to work for right now because I didn't want to make just a floating platform to move the creatures around in. I really wanted to look more unique, so I tested it out after I made the first initial build, and it definitely fits the mammoth, but that means no other creature would be able to fit. So yeah, mammoth, check, but I'm gonna have to leave the mammoth home in order to bring a lot more creatures, because I plan on fighting multiple bosses, so I'm gonna need multiple creatures in order to do it. I even tried bringing John this time around, but for some reason the Gigantopithecus does not like the raft for some reason. It just did not want to be on the raft, which is odd because it worked in Survival Evolved, so the fact that it's bugged in Survival Ascended, it kind of caught me off guard. I didn't know that was going to happen, but unfortunately, that means Little John is going to have to stay home. But everyone else, Spike, Sabor, everyone else is coming with me. Now, this river does span almost the entire map, so it did take a while, but on that note, on the way to the desert, there is another boss battle that we can face. Timberjack. Now, I've been to this area multiple times in the last couple of episodes, as you saw, but I didn't even know Timberjack was there, or when I did, he wasn't around because at this point in time, the spawning was a little bit low. But now there is a Timberjack. I bring all of my guys to face off against him. Now, Timberjack, I think even with the buffs that the developer made today, is still one of the easiest bosses to defeat. He's very small as well, so it might be a little bit hard to spot him because unlike the other creatures which are, 20 times larger than their realistic size, Timberjack is still a really big beaver, but comparatively, he is very small, so I almost didn't even see him in the brush itself, plus his brown pattern kind of camouflaged him. But eventually, I did find him, and we decided to face off. All my creatures rush into him. I try fighting him on foot, but he was just way too small and got piled on by the other creatures, so I jumped up onto a log to get a better advantage so I could help out with my crossbow. Eventually he went down, no issue at all. All my creatures are still pretty much fully healed. It was pretty good, so I had a rush. I was like, oh man, we're taking down 2 bosses, let's go for a third. So we hop back onto the boat and we sail to the desert where there's at least 2 bosses there waiting for us. And the one that I go for first is the Chupacabra. Now, I did find this one a bit, I would say off stream, even though I wasn't really streaming, it's a recording, but you know what I mean. I did find it once before when I was exploring, but I did not face it off because I, wasn't prepared at the time. Now, because I've taken on 2 boss battles, I think I am prepared enough. I did have to hop on Spike in order to see it because, again, Chupacabra is kind of small, similar to Timberjack, but after getting that height advantage, I did find him. Plus, the boss battle music kind of tipped him off as well. So we face off against Chupacabra. Now, in my hubris, I did not realize that this one was going to be much harder than Timberjack. Timberjack was pretty much a pushover, but with Chupacabra, they do a conal AoE ability with their slash, which deals a ton of bleeding damage, and that's what really got my troops. Look at this. One by one, my troops start falling to this beast. My Sabertooth goes down, the Grey Wolf goes down, and eventually we do take out the Chupacabra. I was like, oh man, 2 of my guys went down. But then Sabor dies after the Chupacabra dies because of the bleeding damage. Like, Jesus, I was actually surprised that the Terror Bird lived. And look at Spike. Spike was half dead. So yeah, the Chupacabra is no joke, and this was still the nerfed state. I don't even want to know what it would be like during right now when it's super buffed up. But now that I've lost so many troops and my creatures that are remaining are pretty much almost dead, I decided, yeah, I'm not going to be able to take on the second boss of the desert, and I head home back on my boat with my tail a little bit between my legs. The only thing I had to show for it was a brand new Chupacabra trophy, as well as the Timberjack trophy. Now, just like Gormand, the Chupacabra trophy was a little bit too big for my house, so I ended up placing it outside of my house, but I did place it on the wall of my house rather than on the mountain or something, because it wasn't that big, really. It just was too big for my little one-story side hut. However, Timberjack did fit inside of my house, so I placed him on the wall next to the back door. It actually looks pretty cool on the wall right there, but yeah, I had to move the Chupacabra outside. I've got Gormand outside, Timberjack inside. I am building a collection of trophies from all of the boss battles, and there's still many more to come. But because I lost so many troops, it's gonna be a while to rebuild my army and try again. To honor all of those that had fallen, I decided to make gravestones near my base on the way to the river. And this, unfortunately, does grow over the next few episodes. So if you want to see all of that, please make sure you subscribe, like this video, and stay tuned for episode 6 of the Appalachian map for Ark Survival Ascended.